Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into. Well, to be honest with you, there's only one story to get into, and that's the big story that broke overnight. And that is that yet again, I mean, this is the second time in 1 month, but we have seen it since WrestleMania this year. WWE, big mass release of main roster this time, WWE superstars. Several well-known names on the WWE main roster have been released. Once again, budget cuts being cited as the reason behind their departure from the company. So if you're not familiar or you're not aware, even though you must be at this point, because how can't you be, WWE Head of Talent Relations John Laurinaitis sent out an email yesterday evening stating that Hit Row, that's Top Dollar, Isaiah Swerve Scott, and Ashante the Adonis, John Morrison, Tegan Nox, Drake Maverick, Shane Thorne, and Jackson Riker were released. Now, the cuts were described as budgetary. I do actually have the email in front of me that Head of Talent Relations John Laurinaitis sent out to the talent and staff yesterday evening. This was obtained by Wrestling Inc. It's very short, very to the point. It says, quote, due to budgetary cuts, the following WWE talent were released today, November 18, 2021. John Morrison, Top Dollar, Ashante Adonis, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Tegan Nox, Drake Maverick, Shane Thorne, and Jackson Riker. Thank you, John Laurinaitis, end quote. Now, obviously, this is the second round of WWE releases this month. As I mentioned, on November 4th, WWE released 18 talents. This included the likes of Keith Lee, Nia Jax, Karrion Kross, Eva Marie, Gran Metalik, Lindsay Dorado, Scarlett, Oni Lorcan, and Ember Moon. Now, obviously, when these came out last night, I think the big talking point, and it's probably the one we're going to probably spend the majority of this video talking about, was Hit Row. Hit Row, it's baffling, absolutely baffling. I mean, I don't want to be one of those people that's over the top and reactionary and all this kind of stuff. And if anything, I'm actually glad that it's been a couple of hours since the news came out that I can speak to you guys about it. But I'm kind of done. I really am. I'm kind of done trying to wrap my head around this, because you can't wrap your head around this. And they talk about budget cuts. They talk about, trimming the fat, as it were. But this budget has not been cut. It's been massacred. I mean, it really has. And it makes you wonder again, what budget are they cutting? I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong. Obviously, this comes down to money. It's always come down to money when it comes to WWE. A certain point earlier this year, Nick Khan obviously spoke to Vince McMahon, or I think the pandemic plays a part in this as well, in the sense that if you fast forward, or rewind rather, back to the pandemic last year, or when it first started to hit and WWE let go all of those talents, furloughed all of those talents, and at the end of the year, when they were talking to their shareholders, their stockholders, what did they say? They said, despite the pandemic, WWE is more profitable than it's ever been. We're still driving so much revenue, even though we're not live touring anymore, and we don't have fans inside the arena. We're still so profitable. And then this year, WWE went back on the road, and they realized, you know what? We don't need all these people, actually. We can actually really heavily cut the talent budget here. And at that same time, we can make even more money than we've ever made before. We can be more profitable than we've ever been before. And that's what they're doing. At WWE, they don't care about talent. I mean, nobody can tell me anymore that WWE cares about talent. I mean, I've known that for a long, long time. But WWE certainly could give a damn about any talent on their roster. And when it comes to now NXT being revamped and they're going back to the antiquated, outdated version of WWE developmental from the late 90s, early 2000s, where you have to be an NFL player, an NBA player, or have a baseball background or a fitness background, or whatever that may be, and you have to be young, you can't be old, especially in the case of a woman. How dare a woman in WWE be in her 30s? How dare that happen, right? And they've gone back to this model, and it stinks, it absolutely stinks. And there have been a lot of people talking, whether they're former WWE superstars now. Taya Valkyrie put out a couple of tweets last night, and it's true, saying that WWE doesn't care about talent. They don't. And I think this just speaks louder. It speaks volumes, because in the case of a Hit Row, and this is why it's so baffling to me, is because, okay, if you're looking at these talents and you go, oh, budget cuts, I don't think they're worth the money we're paying them anymore. Fine, that's your prerogative as a company to let them go. I don't necessarily agree with that point, but okay, let them go. The thing that I can't wrap my head around is with people like Hit Row, they got drafted or called up to the main roster in October, right? In October, and now they've all been let go. Why? And you talk about budget cuts, doesn't that feel like a massive waste of the budget? You know, we always hear these things with Bruce Pritchard on his podcast, right? Oh, WWE, they don't waste television time. They don't pull pranks, or they don't give people bad gimmicks for TV times. There isn't such thing as ribs on the air because it costs too much money. This is live television. This is network television in the case of SmackDown on Fox. And all the stuff that goes into producing a hit row, whether it's the Titantrons, whether it's the graphics, whether it's the music, whether it's whatever. WWE, they wouldn't waste money like that. Well, what a waste of money Hit Row was then. In the sense that you called them up and fans are now invested in that faction. Not just fans of NXT, because you can't even use that excuse anymore of, well, the people that are invested in them from NXT, it's only a small faction of fans. No, it's not the case anymore. They were called up to the main roster and they were popular. They called up to the main roster and and you're telling the fans, this is a great new thing. These are great. This new faction's amazing. They're really popular, aren't they? Great. They're modern, they're hip, they're new. This is 21st century stuff. This is 2021 stuff. This is what people want to see. And then you do cling on to them, and then they just let them go. They just disappear. Now, actually, they were rubbish. You know, the whole time when we were telling you how great Hit Row was? No, they're not. They're gone. What a waste. What an absolute waste. What a waste of time. And WWE wonders, and fans of WWE wonder why people, I guess like myself, but like a lot of people, are so disenfranchised with the WWE product, how they just don't care about what they're watching on the screen. They don't care about what they're watching on the screen, on television, on pay-per-views, or whatever. And they wonder why. Why isn't it? Oh, it must be the fans' fault, right? How can you get emotionally invested in a product where every couple of weeks people disappear off it? You have no idea who's going to go next. I could have my favorite wrestler on the roster. They might be gone tomorrow. If you're someone that's on the talent side of things in WWE, how do you know that you've got a job tomorrow? You don't. I mean, we've heard this story for years and years and years that talent walk on eggshells backstage and they're worried about what they're going to say and who they're going to say it to, and is it a good thing or is it a bad thing, and all this kind of stuff. And that's going to be exponentially higher now, because of course you're going to be walking on eggshells. You don't know if you're going to be fired tomorrow or not. Nobody's job's safe. And I mentioned this before, and I don't want to turn this into a WWE versus AEW thing. Oh, and you're just an AEW marker. Oh, and you're just an AEW fan. I'm a fan of pro wrestling. I cover all forms of pro wrestling here on this channel. But you have to call things out when you see them as they are, and it's ludicrous. That's what it is. It's ludicrous what's happening right now. And don't get me wrong, I understand that certain people, when they're released from WWE, they might not be the hottest act, and maybe they should and will do better outside of WWE. But you can't tell me that WWE truly cares about any of these people, any of them, because they don't. And it feels like at the moment they are truly just throwing money away. John Morrison, right? I mean, I wasn't totally, I'll be honest, I wasn't totally on the floor surprised by the John Morrison one, because Taya Valkyrie did just get released and they screwed her over massively in the sense that they signed her and then a couple months later decided she was too old, so they got rid of her. I mean, how ridiculous is that? And obviously John Morrison is married to Taya Valkyrie, and I wouldn't be surprised if he went, you know what, let me go then. Because what am I doing on Raw? You know, The Miz is away doing Dancing with the Stars, so I'm just chasing after the 24/7 title, and when he comes back, I might have that dripstick once again. What a waste. What an absolute waste. And it's just this, if you were a former WWE superstar, or you're an up-and-coming talent on the independent scene, or whatever, I just think the goalposts have moved at this point. I really do. If I was a pro wrestler right now on the independent scene, I wouldn't want to go to WWE. I wouldn't. Obviously, the money is there, I get it, and the dream of performing at a WrestleMania or in a Royal Rumble or a SummerSlam or whatever that may be, that is the dream. But look how they treat talent. And at this point, is it even beneficial for your career to go to WWE? Probably not. Seriously, it probably isn't. Because your shelf life there is going to be probably a couple of months. Most likely you will fail. It doesn't matter if you're talented or not, because they've already pigeonholed who they want to push, and it doesn't matter about talent. They'll release you, and they don't care about it, and they don't care about you. All they care about is money. And the creative brain trust in charge of that company, Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon. I mean, it's almost a joke, isn't it, at this point, right? When you see a group like Hit Row, right, that is modern, that is current, that speaks to a big population of people, and that's current, that's hip. And people always say, like, oh, Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard, they're not going to get Hit Row. And you kind of laugh about it. You go, well, but if they make money, who cares? No, they don't get Hit Row. So they've all been released because they don't get them. How on earth is a 70-odd-year-old Vince McMahon and a Bruce Pritchard that's nearly in his 60s, how are they going to write and book for Hit Row? They have no idea. They don't get that faction at all. They don't even get the money it can make. That's the crazy thing now. It's not as if they just don't get the act, but they don't get how much money they can make. I think Hit Row's merchandise, I think they're sold out. And they're still selling them. Why? No, I just because it's 1985. That's the thing. It's 1985 in the minds of Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. That's it. It's 1985, and the television reflects that. You got Roman Reigns wearing a crown last Friday on SmackDown. It's just, you've got Survivor Series on Sunday, one of the big four or the original four pay-per-views, and it feels meaningless. Nothing. There is no build to it. Brand supremacy, like that's even a thing. How can you even be loyal to a brand when you've been drafted to it last month and some of the people that were drafted to it aren't even on it anymore? It's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. Now, as I mentioned, some of these names, the Hit Row one is baffling. John Morrison, like I said, I wasn't totally shocked just because of the Taya Valkyrie thing, but this was a guy that was featured prominently on television. He wrestled with The Miz against Bad Bunny and Damian Priest at WrestleMania earlier this year. That was a big deal. But after The Miz, and this is what's baffling as well. It's just, and again, how can you get invested in the product when they don't pay anything off? The Miz turned on John Morrison. He then goes on Dancing with the Stars, and they're just never going to pay that off because John Morrison's not with the company anymore. And I get there aren't many such things as casual fans anymore. Everyone knows the workings behind the scenes, but that's just, if that was any other TV show, people would criticize that and say, well, they had this big turn on someone and then they never paid it off. They go, that sucks. Guess what? That sucks. Pay it off. But they don't have any creative nuance or anything like that. Now, Tegan Nox, another one, just made her main roster debut in July in a tag team with Shotzi Blackheart, or should I just say Shotzi and Nox. Now, this team was used sporadically before Nox was drafted to Raw last month, or Shotzi remained on SmackDown. Shotzi's actually getting a bit of a push, and Tegan Nox has done nothing. So, poof, she's gone. Even though in NXT, incredibly popular. But again, what does it mean? Well, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. I really do wonder what Triple H must think. Because he must, and obviously I know he's got his health issues at the moment, all that kind of stuff, but he must just be sat there. I mean, luckily he's bald anyway, but if he still had the long hair, he'd be pulling it out. It would be long gone by this point because he would be like, I just built this brand, and not only have they decided to creatively just change it and rip it apart into something different, NXT 2.0, but on top of that, these stars that I put so much creative time into and TV time into and all this kind of stuff are just getting released. Because NXT doesn't matter. The fans don't matter and the talent doesn't matter either. Drake Maverick, is that a surprising one? Not really. You know, he was going to be released last year. He was released last year. And it was only because of the sort of emotional video he put on social media, they turned it into a storyline. And he got signed to a new deal. He actually released a video yesterday that kind of played off that, and it was actually a really good video, I must say. And in fairness, like, when he was released last year, you could tell that that video was legitimate. He was worried about his future. No one knew what was going on with the pandemic. I think he thought, like, what am I going to do? All this kind of stuff. And in contrast, 24 hours, a year later, rather, that video is like, it just tells the home truths. You did everything they asked of you. You tried to make, chicken salad out of chicken shit every single time. You tried your best. They made you a manager. They made you a GM. They barely have you as a wrestler unless it was on NXT. They made you a comedy guy, a goof. And don't get me wrong, Rockstar Spud in Impact Wrestling, that's what he was. But he did everything that company asked of him. And to be honest, I'm surprised he lasted that long, considering that Vince McMahon, for a fact, Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard take one look at Drake Maverick and they just go, no. They turn their nose up at no, too small, accent, get rid of him. It'll do better outside of WWE. Jackson Riker, Look, I've said my piece on Jackson Riker time and time and time again. I don't need to repeat those things. I think everyone, kind of most people, share the same opinion on Jackson Riker. First of all, I'm not going to celebrate anyone losing their job. I don't think that's fair. I don't think anyone should celebrate someone losing their job, losing their livelihood, losing their source of income. I do think that Jackson Riker has been a lame duck ever since that whole incident happened when it comes to the Forgotten Sons on SmackDown last year. He should have been brought back, and to be honest, they probably should have let him go then for the sake of his career. Nevertheless, they tried. The most baffling thing is how, and this is how tone-deaf WWE is, they persisted with him. They were releasing other talent over him, and they even tried to make him into a babyface. Remember that? When they tried to make him into a babyface against Elias? Madness, absolute madness. But again, it goes to show how tone-deaf WWE is. Remember the whole Vince McMahon thing? It's all about listening to your audience, giving them what they want. I think your audience doesn't want you to fire like a quarter of the roster every couple of weeks. Just my opinion. Finally, Shane Thorne, he signed with WWE actually way back in 2016. Again, that one isn't surprising. That one isn't surprising, is it? Of course. You know, he was part of Retribution. Retribution, what a laughing stock that is. That was. And since then, you know, he's been doing nothing. He's just been doing nothing. So again, that one's not surprising. And those names you kind of expect. If anything, you would probably think those people are probably happy to leave. Some of these people are happy to leave in the sense that, you know, they weren't doing anything. Shane Thorne's probably thrilled that he's leaving because he can actually work on the independent scene again. So I'm not complaining about those kind of ones. People that are sitting on the sideline, and if you're not doing anything with them, fine. But it's the baffling ones are the ones that are on television and they just decide to let go. Or the ones that they're telling people, they're doing vignettes, they're doing storylines, and they just drop and they don't pay anything off. It's just madness. And what's weird, I suppose, and I've spoke about this before here on the channel, obviously those people on social media that are really pro WWE defenders to the end, brother, you know, I'm supporting WWE because I've got to pick a team, of those people trying to justify this, trying to defend WWE, saying that, you know, oh, there's too many people on them, let them go, releases happen, why all the outrage? The outrage is because, one, people don't like to see people lose their jobs, but on top of that, the outrage is because, you know, you're releasing acts that are making money or acts that people like. That's why. That's the outrage. You know, there isn't a lot of outrage, you know, that say Shane Thorne got released by WWE. There's outrage that Hit Row got released because they're popular. People like them. People like watching them on television. They make engaging television. They make money. That's why. And it's these, but you'll have those people that will defend WWE forever, and that's their deal. But look, guys, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the latest WWE releases? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Get the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.